And joining us on this broadcast is Major General Sudhakarji as well as Brigadier Rajan Jamwal as well. Good morning, gentlemen, for joining us on the broadcast. Our top focus remains the fire that has broken out at the power plant in Ukraine. In fact, what we're learning in the latest is that the power plant spokesperson has said that the fighting or the clashes between the Ukrainian and the Russian troops has stopped near the power plant and the radiation levels are currently normal. And the viewers were just joining us this morning. Those are the visuals we are getting in right now from the Ukraine's power plant, which was on fire after shelling happened at this power plant by the Russian troops late last night, in fact. And the latest now that we're learning is that the power plant spokesperson has said that the radiation levels are under normal and the situation is currently stable, is what we are told. Major General Sudhakar, if I can come to you first, what do you make of this scenario? Because this is a big escalation. What people are saying, what officials are saying, in fact, that if this escalates, the ramifications will be huge. In fact, 10 times more than what we saw during Chernobyl disaster.
Good morning. It's a very, very relevant question under the present circumstances you have raised. And like I have been saying, to explain to our viewers, give the review of situation. Well, we have Kharkiv. The attack is still in progress, very intense shelling. And you have Sumy in the northeast. It is still under attack. You have Mariupol towards southeast. Attack is in progress, although quite a few media sections are saying they have consolidated and then moving ahead. And most interestingly, you see this progress of offensive from the northern, that is Belarus side towards Kyiv. You know, it cuts across Chernobyl plant, nuclear installation. And this nuclear installation, the power plant which has been hit as indicated by your channel, well, if it is only the source of power, it's fine. Nuclear installation is spread over a large area. It is not, say, by 100 meters by 100 meters. But even then we are, like I mentioned a little while back, this whole conflict, unless we exercise restraint, we are actually stepping into a cauldron of fire. And it will be very difficult to contain and carry out any kind of restraint subsequently. Back to you, please.
That's right. Let me go across to Brigadier Jamwal as well. Sir, what do you make of this? Isn't this an international war crime? Because if this blows up, the ramifications will be huge, because what we are seeing right now is that if this escalates, not just Ukraine, other countries could also be impacted as well.
Look, like General Sudhakar said, a nuclear plant is not exactly 100 meter target. It's a big area, and I'm sure the strike is on one of the peripheral, infrastructure, and not on the core as such. So, and further, I'm sure the Russia during its strikes has already factored in. It is not yet an all-out war. I mean, the way I'm seeing, the Russians have not yet resorted to, entering the cities per se, main cities like Kyiv and all, which they could have done because they have already isolated it for the last 4 days. So they are trying to avoid collateral casualties, basically to provide a contrast to the NATO's ways of war, like in Iraq or Afghanistan, where they just bombed everything out of existence first. And then, they have not exactly followed. And in the process, they have taken casualties. They have deliberately taken casualties, basically to see our war fighting is different. We are more, the war is always bad, but we fight a more human war. So this is the narrative they will try to create subsequently. The United States has already, started offering, even if you stop the war now, we will stop, remove all sanctions. To my this has been factored in by the Russians. The strike is very calculated. There is no real threat to the nuclear leaks or whatever we call it that way. And they are moving towards their objective, that is converting of Ukraine into a landlocked country, which by and large they have achieved. It has no more access to the Black Sea as things stand today. and it is virtually split into two. And then the second would be the regime change in whatever they decide to leave as the actual real Ukraine, a landlocked mass. A regime change there would be effected. So Russians are moving in a very, very calculated way. They are taking their time, they are taking in casualties, but they are moving with a purpose. So that is my assessment of the situation. I mean, some collateral damage in a war would always be there.
Right. Brigadier Jamwal and Major General Sudhakarji, stay with us. Let's once again listen in to what President Zelensky had to say when he appealed to the Western countries to come forward and help the nation.
Звертаюся до всіх українців, до всіх європейців, до всіх людей, хто знає слово Чорнобиль, хто знає, скільки горя і жертв приніс вибух на атомній станції. Це була глобальна катастрофа. З її наслідками боролися сотні тисяч людей, евакуювали десятки тисяч людей. Росія хоче це повторити і вже повторює, але у 6 разів більше. Європейці, прокиньтесь, будь ласка, говоріть своїм політикам. Російські війська обстрілюють атомну станцію в Україні, Запорізьку атомну станцію, місто Енергодар. Там 6 енергоблоків, 6. В Чорнобилі вибухнув 1 енергоблок. Ми зв'язалися з нашими лідерами, з партнерами. Я говорив вже з Шарлем Мішелем, Шольцем, говорив з Дудою, говорив з президентом Байденом. Ми зв'язалися з головою МАГАТЕ Гросі, також прем'єр-міністром Джонсоном. Ми всіх попереджаємо. Жодна держава, окрім Росії, ніколи не обстрілювала атомні енергоблоки. Вперше в нашій історії, в історії людства, держава-терорист вдалася і до ядерного терору. Російські пропагандисти погрожували всі.
Major General Sudhakar, let me come to you. You know, we just heard UK Boris Johnson has called for a UNSC emergency meet. There have been multiple sessions in the past few days as well. President Biden has dialed Zelensky as well. But when it comes to substantial action, nothing has really transpired on the ground. Do you think the time to act is now? Because nothing has really transpired so far, and this is only escalating in the days to come.
So, sir, is that question to me? Are you asking me that question? If you can repeat the question, please.
Yes, Major General Sudhakar, I was addressing to you. My question was, what substantial action do you think should be taken now? Because there have been multiple UNSC sessions in the past few days. President Biden has called Zelensky, has dialed Zelensky, extending support to the country, but nothing has transpired on the ground. What sort of action do you think the Western allies should come and take as far as supporting Ukraine as is concerned in this crisis situation?
Samiksha, well, thanks for asking that question. It's a very, I would say, it would lay the perspective of the entire conflict there and remind our viewers that perhaps Putin has been making time and again, he has been giving indications and indicating lines to have a talk. Nobody has heard him and addressed his points right since 2014 onwards, ever since the Minsk Accord was signed, Minsk Accord 1 and 2. And it has been lingering on. Even thereafter, he has given clear indications of build-up of troops, conduct of exercise, recognition of Luhansk and Donetsk, the Donbas province. He's also raised the barrier by saying that the present government must be dismissed and he has to go in for maybe indications of a pro-Russian leader. Also, likewise, Crimea has to be identified and accepted by the authorities concerned, etc. The host of issues, the recognition to these breakaway provinces. And all the time, he has been actually giving clear indications for the global leaders to initiate talks and thereafter ensure implementation of Minsk Accord 1 and 2. Unfortunately, that has not happened. Now, since you're asking me this question, how do I see panning out of this particular thing? Well, my take on the whole issue is this conflict in the present circumstances, in the backdrop of COVID pandemic and the kind of decimation it is done to the economy, to the health, to the employment, to the livelihood people all over the world. Even the fact that China is a rising China, despite all the challenges, and it's the number one enemy, and the pivot of Asia had shifted from Middle East to Indo-Pacific, I do not see any logic in opening up a new front.
Okay.
Peace must prevail. Talk is already going on. They must listen to Putin. They must accept his demand that Ukraine in no way can join NATO. Ukraine has to be a buffer state. It is a traditional, historical kind of a country of erstwhile USSR. They need to accept, if not 100%, at least 50% or some percentage of his demands so that the conflict is brought to an end. Back to you, Samishka.
Brigadier Jamwal, if I could come to you first. Earlier in the morning when I was speaking to you, if you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Earlier in the morning when I was speaking to you, you were saying that you see this perhaps as a battle more of narratives, that this is something perhaps that we don't have verification on. But the fact is that even if it is a battle of narratives, it's not a narrative that's looking very good as far as Russia is concerned, because the world is alarmed. And after Chernobyl, everybody is extremely scared that this could snowball into something that no one can control.
You see, exactly, when you are talking about a strike on a nuclear plant, I am sure Russia has a good idea about its design. After all, they helped build it. In fact, that they are the ones who built most of the nuclear reactors in Ukraine. So it would have the design, and nuclear reactors are not exactly built to, explode. They are not built to explode like atomic bombs. Otherwise, it is not only a missile. Tomorrow it could have been an earthquake or a small meteor strike, anything. Then you blow up into a nuclear bomb. They are not meant to blow up like nuclear bombs. So all this, the Ukrainian Zelensky is telling, the whole Europe will go. It is more of a hyperbole. The reactors are not designed to blow up like that. Yes, there is always a danger of a leak, the uranium leak, which could spread this thing. But since these are heavily underground, and I'm sure Russia is well into its design, it knows its layout. So all this have been factored in. And I see most of this as a Western propaganda and sheer hyperbole. The firefighters are inside. The aim, like your own news report was telling just now, is basically to deny energy to a little part of Ukraine so that the isolation from the sea is totally complete. And to that purpose, it is this thing. You see, this debate we are getting into in a war. What is a legitimate and what is an illegitimate target? Now, these boundaries have been crossed a number of times in every war. So exactly to lay down boundaries in Russia-Ukraine war, I do not know for how far it would be correct.
All right, let's also bring in Major General Sudhakarji into this. Now, Major General Sudhakarji, do you agree with that perspective? Because, Brigadier Jamwal is right when he says that a large number of these nuclear facilities, which are power plants, were actually built by the Russians. So in that sense, they would know what they're doing. But do you see this as pressure tactics in that sense from the Russian army? Because this is also very, very strategic. It's located in a part which could essentially cut off Ukraine from the seaports. And is that perhaps the strategy that the Russian army is now adopting?
Nupur, firstly, I must compliment you for the type of questions which you are framing, and there is a big allowance you have given in your question. And also, I respect the comments given by Brigadier Jamwal. I know him. He is a qualified officer. He's got hands-on experience on many issues that he is talking of. I respect him without meaning to contradict anybody. I have my own views, regardless of what people say, and I'm quite well aware, I'm qualified enough to comment. I'm fully conscious of the fact all the nuclear installations anywhere in the world, unless it is a rogue state like North Korea, they come under the ambit of International Atomic Energy Commission. Once they come under the ambit of International Atomic Energy Commission, anything and everything, there are some safeguard measures. Things don't blow up like this or snowball out of hand, like Brigadier Jamwal has said. And the point which you are hinting at, Nupur, I couldn't actually agree with you more. You see, if we can avoid a fire and disaster leading to disaster, why have it? In today's time, I have been virtually, consistently and persistently making this point almost in all channels. In past couple of days, 7-8 days, I must have covered almost, if not more, at least 25 to 30 channels in Hindi, in regional languages, English. I have been saying that it is the ideal time. U.S., despite the military might, despite being a superpower, we saw a living example of a disorganized withdrawal from Afghanistan. Look at the standing of this superpower. They have their internal problems, which maybe the viewers would be fully alive to. China is facing a huge credibility question within its state. The leadership is under a flag. Russia is contesting for its recognition. Which country in the world today? That's what I have been giving an indication. I know what I'm saying is fraught with a lot of danger, but naturally, by and by, with the passage of time, the credibility of our own country, that is India, has ascended. It has grown. And it is coming naturally on our lap. That is why I'm saying that Narendra Modi, he's done extensively under his leadership. The country has gained notches of milestones and ascended along the ladder. Having said that, coming back to the point that you expect me to respond, in any kind of disaster or a kind of a conflict happening, there is always an escalatory matrix which is played by the party which is going in for the offensive. Yes, they will have more number of casualties, they will have more number of destruction of their military assets. That is well taken, but they will definitely play along the escalatory matrix. So in that escalatory matrix, the point that you are raising, well, this could be put under a new acronym which is making rounds in the media, is the false flag operation. False flag operation is kind of a covert operation, which is triggered by the party which is launching an offensive so as to justify or retain deniability. So it could be part of false flag operation as well. So when we have more time, I'll discuss. When you give me a chance, I'll explain to the viewers also. But for the time being, I tend to agree with you that let's not play with fire. It's fraught with too much of danger. If by accident, one nuclear installation starts leaking radiation, like the way Chernobyl, although we have been assured that everything is safe, well, it is not Ukraine. It is not 40 kilometers or 50 kilometers, like the scientist a little while back in your channel only who assured that the scientist is said a complete evacuation is to take place. I am foreseeing a huge disaster is looming large. Entire Europe is going to be affected. So therefore, the Western powers, rather than doing double talk and being hypocrites, they must address the issue in a realistic form. They need to take it seriously. And if not 100% demands of the Putin, some issues must be agreed to so that the war, the ongoing conflict is brought to an end. Back to you, Nupur.
Absolutely. So what Major General Sudhakarji, you're saying essentially is that in a war-like situation, you don't know, how it could actually pan out when there are, people on the ground.